Welcome to Loading the Bar with physical training experts Parker McBride and Matt Wasco. Our Fit Lifestyle podcast covers the science of nutrition and fitness, together with the challenges we all face to be disciplined. We'll guide you through the minefields of fads and gimmicks and all manner of BS that tempt us in today's fitness world. Ready to begin? Then let's start loading the bar.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Loading the Bar podcast. Parker McBride here, joined as always by Matt Wasco, and we are bringing you episode 4 today. All right, fourth time we're doing this. Can you believe that, Matt?
No, I can't believe it. That we can organize our schedules and be here at the same time is pretty exciting.
Hey, it's hard to get. Hey, Matt's a very busy man, so his time's in high demand. So we're glad we can have him for an hour here on a very, very cold day.
Yes. I've been turning water on the faucets. I've been trying to get firewood in the fireplace so I can take some relief on the gas bill.
Yeah.
And it is cold. And tomorrow's going to be even colder. I think the wind chill this morning was negative 16.
Yeah.
So
it's going to be bad for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the Chiefs playoff game tonight,
Miami.
That's going to be a cold one. Glad I'm going to be sitting at home
watching it. I'm
watching
going to be sitting at home, and if Chiefs lose that, they really flubbed it because Miami's not a cold weather team.
That's true.
And every big game they had this year, they flubbed it at the end.
That's true.
So, only one team I think blew them out. I could be wrong, but
yeah,
I think it was the Ravens or something like that. But
yeah, well, this will get posted after the game's already done. So
yes.
We'll do some real quick prediction here, just so we can laugh at our terrible predictions afterwards.
I think Chiefs win. Chiefs have not looked great.
Yeah,
but I do think they're going to win like 23-16. That's my score.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was thinking in my head 21-17 Chiefs.
Yeah.
So I think we're both right there.
Yeah.
Right there with it. We'll see what happens. Probably won't be right. Anyway, so today what we're going to talk about nutrition kind of at a high level, but specifically, we've been talking in some of our past episodes so far about your goals and how to reach them. And we're going to dive into how to structure your nutrition and your diet in order to reach your goals.
Right.
Because that's a very important thing. Generally speaking, I think anybody who's been in the gym, been involved in health and fitness for very long at all, understands how to eat healthy.
Right.
But that's only the first step.
Right.
Then you have to understand, okay, how do I eat healthy, but then also specifically tailor that plan to meet what my goal is.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what we're going to kind of dive into today. Typically, what we see with trainees is they have one of two, I maybe say one of three goals. Mm-hmm. The first goal is, I'm a brand new beginner. I just want to get healthier. I don't really care about specifics. The second goal we see is maybe somebody more experienced. They've been in the gym a while, and they say, I really want to lean down, tone up, lose some weight. Third goal we see also with somebody usually somewhat experienced in the gym is, I want to bulk up, I want to get bigger, I want to get more muscular.
Right.
A lot of times, the beginners, that's kind of just any beginner is going to have that first goal. A lot more women have that second goal, and a lot more men have that third goal.
Yeah.
But those are kind of the three big ones that I want to cover, and then maybe we go into some more specifics from there.
Yeah.
When you have somebody brand new that comes in as a trainee, what are your they obviously they want to get healthy, right? And it's pretty easy when you're new to build muscle and lose fat at the same time.
Right.
What are your suggestions for brand new trainees that come in that have no experience in diet and nutrition?
Well, I usually will sit down with them and talk about the foods that are important. And the first thing I'll ask them to do is get off the processed foods. Anything in a package, try to avoid. On average, I know it's hard to avoid those things 100% because where we buy our food is, inundated with all kinds of preservatives. So I kind of talk to them about, the clean food, and by that I mean, fresh food, farmers markets, those type of things, and, to see if they can work those into their schedules. But as far as I think there needs to be a basic understanding of the foods that do the most for them, because a lot of the foods cause inflammation with the processed foods, with all the preservatives they have in there. And for what I have found with my approach, that I like covering some of those things like seed oils and things they need to try to avoid and clean up their diet, because I think it's something we have to fight down the road if they don't clean up their diet. And then I'll talk to them about the macros and the breakdown and trying to get healthy. So I always try to get the protein up. Most people, when they come in, are half the protein at best that they need to be eating. I've done some recent studies just in the last week, and even some of the titans of the industry will say, oh, you only need 1 gram of protein to 1 pound. If you read some of the bodybuilders, they'll say, 1.1, 1.2, maybe more per pound of protein. But you're going to find most people are half of that. And I understand you can't give them some of these macronutrient breakdowns and say, okay, I need you, if you weigh 200 pounds, you need to hit 200 grams of protein, and they're currently hit at 100. And to change from 100 to 200 is a lifestyle change, because it's disciplined to buy the right food and find that time to prepare it. But as far as the breakdown, I try to get high protein, and I understand it's going to take some months to get up there. I told them to be patient with themselves as they slowly up that protein, and I try to get their carbs down and their fats up, and good fats. So that's kind of and I kind of customize that based on their goals.
Yeah, and you kind of have to build that over time. Like
Yes.
you said, you can't take somebody who has been on a standard American diet for their whole life, and their first day in the gym, you're saying, hey, you need to follow this 100% clean, super strict, perfect diet for somebody who wants to be a bodybuilder.
Exactly.
They're not going to be able to do that.
Right.
There may be a few really rare cases of somebody who has tremendous mental wherewithal that could handle that, but it's very, very rare. Most people need to be eased into it. And I think I like what you said at the beginning about starting people off with more of an elimination style diet, where we take, what are you currently eating? What are the bad things? Let's pinpoint those and let's eliminate them, right? Because it's one thing to take a diet and completely overhaul it and eat all the right things, but the first things first, let's get the terrible things out. Because if you're just avoiding the really bad things, we can hone in on the good things and figure out what the right good things are. But generally speaking, you're going to be healthy if you just avoid these terrible things, right? And you just kind of eat a whole natural foods, non-processed. You're going to be pretty healthy, a lot healthier than somebody who's eating a lot of processed foods. And that in and of itself takes a lot of time for people to get out of the habit of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think your delivery of how, what they need to do, I always approach it from the standpoint, this is where we want to be, and this is where you are. And understand that sometimes it takes months to get to the macros we need to be hitting. But I keep talking to them through every time they come in. How's that nutrition going? And that's just that friendly reminder that it's paramount. Nutrition's paramount in what we do. So, I try to keep them focused on their nutrition, their sleep, when they eat, prepare them, make sure they're getting their protein, especially if they have I just told a trainee yesterday, they had their biggest leg day in a very long time. And I said, no, I looked at them, now, what are you going to go do? And they said, rest. I was like, no. I said,
well, that too.
Yes, but I said, that's important, but go get your protein in.
Yeah.
Because you just put your legs through hell, and you need to rebuild what you tore down. So I always remind that if I know they had especially if they had a really big day, and they've been having trouble getting their protein in, I remind them, now what are you going to go do? Go get your protein in. And so, because I can speak personally, protein has been the difference in what I've been able to do. And it's, if you give it time and you're patient and you're consistent, it will make the difference.
Yeah. So that seems like beginning steps would be take out processed foods, take out stuff in a bag, in a box, take out stuff that you look on the back of the label and there's 100 ingredients, take out all that stuff. Then it kind of becomes transitioning yourself to more protein. So whatever you're eating now, your goal is to just increase that little by little.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight. You can't go from 100 grams a day to 200 grams a day and all at once.
Right.
Your digestive system, your body's not prepared to handle that. It will get used to that over time, but it takes some time. So take out the processed foods, increase the protein, replace a lot of the carbs with protein, right? Because your fats still need to remain high. High protein is very important. With the high protein is going to come some fats. The 3 macronutrients: proteins, carbs, and fats. So proteins, high. Fats, kind of at a medium level, or they could be high. Carbs are the one that we can really take out if we need to.
Right.
So carbs, when you eat carbs, what they are meant for is to be used as energy, right? They are converted into glucose, which can be used as energy. So if you eat carbs and you go run a mile or you go do a workout in the gym, you're going to burn off that energy.
Right.
However, if you eat carbs and you do not burn off that energy, then that glucose gets stored as body fat.
Right.
So the reason that we want to drop carbs for somebody that's brand new, especially if they're overweight or just at a weight that's higher than they want to be, which most new people are. Rarely does someone come in the gym. Every once in a while we see someone come in the gym as a new trainee and they're just like a twig and they just like, I just need to eat more and gain weight. Every once in a while it happens, but for the most part, your goal is to lose weight. So we want to drop those carbs because once you've stored body fat, your body is storing that body fat for future use. It says, we just got all this energy that we're not using. What's the most efficient thing to do with it? Store it in case we need it later. And that's why you put body fat on.
Right.
And so you don't need the carbs if you already have a bunch of extra fat stored up on your body, because your body's going to then use that first. So let's say that you do have body fat stored up on your body, and then you go to run a mile or do a workout, but you don't have any carbs in your system for your body to use. What's it going to use? It's going to go to your fat storage and start burning that in order to do energy. So in order to get that weight loss, we have to be in a calorie deficit, and we have to be less carbs, eating less carbs than what the equivalent of what we're burning.
Right.
That way our body can tap into its fat storage and start burning that off.
Right.
Because people are right. There are a lot of people out there who say, well, you need carbs because that's how you get energy. That's true. But if you've been having an excess for many, many years and it's added to this extra body fat that you now have, then maybe you don't need carbs for a while. And I think that's one of the reasons why many people as beginners have seen tremendous progress on a ketogenic style diet.
Right.
I don't think it's a good long-term forever solution, but I think in the interim for 6 months or a year at the beginning of your journey, I think it's fantastic.
This kind of segues a little bit, and if I'm jumping over a topic, you let me know. But this kind of segues a little bit, into what is considered the carnivore diet.
Kind of does.
This is carnivore month.
It is.
So, which you're currently doing.
I am.
And, we've had some people that we've trained and that have gone to the carnivore diet, and we've talked to them and they said, that sounds like a great idea. And then they buy recipes and they go down to, some of them have gone to almost zero carbs. But usually it's 10 to 20% carbs, and they've had tremendous success. This melting the weight away, doing anywhere from usually 40 to 45% carbs, and the same on your fats, and then getting 40 to 45% protein, and then 40 to 45% on your fats, and then you're getting your carbs down to about 20%.
Yeah.
And that has really shown results in the people that I've advised to do that can do it. What has been your approach to that, or your thoughts on that?
I think it makes it really easy to hit the right macros. You talked about the 40%, 45% protein, 45% fat, 10 to 20% carb. Meat in and of itself is no carb, and it's usually about half and half, but depending on how lean of a meat that you have, about half and half protein and fat. So you're already kind of right on your macros if you just eat meat. It's simple, it's easy, and then your dairy products and things, which you can also have on a carnivore diet, have a little bit of those trace carbs, so you can get to that 10% carb mark. But I think it's fantastic because of its simplicity.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Now, I will admit, right, we're 2 weeks into carnivore month. It does get a little dull and boring because you're eating meat, you're eating dairy products, and you're eating eggs.
Right.
You can't add anything else really to that. I mean, there are a few different, bone broth and, like pork rinds are technically carnivore and stuff like that. But generally speaking, there's not much you can do. And so it's dull and so it's boring, but it's simple and it's easy. It's just like, just eat meat.
Right.
If you want to add some cheese to it, add some cheese to it. If you want to have some milk, you can have some milk. Cook some eggs in the morning. Have some bacon with it,
So how many carbs are you currently putting in?
Ooh, the only carbs I would get would be from dairy, which I'm doing about typically like 16 ounces of milk a day. Sometimes I'll have a second glass and it'll be 32. So there's a little bit there, 10 to 20 carbs there. But that's about it. The cheese, has some.
So you're under 10%.
Yeah, I'm pretty low.
Yeah.
On the carb number, but because typically what I've been doing is eggs in the morning, maybe with some cheese on them, maybe with some bacon or sausage, a glass of milk. So there's a little bit of carbs in the milk, but nothing else has carbs.
Right.
Lunch has been, I do a pound of ground beef burger patties, make it like 4 patties that are all a quarter pound. Put cheese on top of it, so there's a little bit of trace in the cheese. And then dinner, my wife will try to experiment with some different carnivore recipes and stuff, so that could be anything.
Yeah, so you could essentially go very long term on a carnivore diet. You could make it the way you eat.
There are people that have done a carnivore diet for years, if not decades.
Yeah. I just saw someone in the news recently. Obviously, it wasn't covered by any mainstream, but it was a lady that's a farmer. She's been eating carnivore diet for 40 years, and she's in her 60s, and she looks like she's in her 40s.
Yeah,
she looks fantastic. So, I think, again, this is not. I don't have any science to back this up, so I speak from what I feel would be an effect on our age and how we age. And I think eating toxins that are in a lot of the preservatives and the dyes that you get at the store, I think age us quicker. They're harder on us. They're harder on our joints. They give us inflammation. And I think there is, because I'm seeing a lot of connection with being very fit and very healthy and being on a carnivore diet. Now, I've done a carnivore diet. I'm not on one now because I'm taking in glucose. My carbs are fairly high right now, and my fats are fairly high. I mean, all of them. I'm usually around 30, 40. And because I have a very different goal, which is I'm bulking right now. Yeah. And so it's a very different set of circumstances, but I eat clean.
Yeah.
I eat very little from the grocery store, and I eat pretty boring. I eat a lot of eggs. I mean, a lot of eggs. And so that's a very different goal, and then, but when it's time for me to cut, I'll be doing exactly what you're doing. And I think that's a very healthy way to live. Long term. I don't know how you feel about doing it long term.
I've done it in the past, like a week at a time, a few days at a time, but I've never been like super strict. for a long period of time. And so that's one of the reasons why this year I said, you know what, January is carnivore month. And I said, for just all January, I'm going to do it, and I'm just going to see what happens. Kind of track my progress and see what happens in my body over time, and then just go from there. I don't plan on continuing it long term, but I don't feel like I'm in a position maybe to need it long term, like somebody who came in and was very overweight and was interested in that diet as a solution. I mean, I would say you can do it long-term sustainably. Many people have, and especially if they're in a stage of weight loss.
Right. Or do you introduce any of the other supplements into your diet, or are you just keeping it just a carnivore diet?
Nothing else.
Wow.
No supplements.
Wow. Yeah, that's, I've been cleaning up some of the ways that I approach workouts. Used to do a powder, pre-workout powder, and I'm finding good results with this salt water before I begin working out. Electrolytes, yep. Electrolytes, salt water, and I've kind of wakes me up, gets me going.
Yeah.
And it's kind of that natural pre-workout. So slowly, I'm moving to trying to clean up, some of the supplements I was using as well. So, I think it's just, I'm much older, so having that longer, outlook going into the future. Longevity. I want to keep it as clean as possible, because I've revealed to you that I have trouble with dyes. Dyes are really bad for me. So just to give you an example, there was a time I squirted those Milo drops. I think that's what those are called.
Mio, yeah.
Flavored my water. And 15 minutes, I noticed, and I didn't put two and two together. It took me a few times. But in 15 minutes after taking that, migraine, right? Ate some yellow Tic Tacs about a month ago. Within 15 minutes, migraine. So yellow dye number 5, very bad. I think it's yellow dye number 5, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that stuff is in the supplements. That's I want to quickly on supplements. I've had lots of people ask my opinion on this, and it's really controversial in the fitness industry. But if we're going to sit here and we're going to preach to people that they need to remove all the processed food from their diet, but then we're going to go push them a bunch of supplements that are all processed, it's hypocritical and it doesn't make logical sense.
Yeah.
So my approach has very much been, when I talk about removing processed stuff from your diet, I mean all processed stuff. I don't mean, eat super clean, but then take 18 supplements. No, because supplements and powders are all processed as well. I'm removing that stuff as well. I think I'm seeing just as good, better results. I think supplements are, quite frankly, do they many times give the desired effect? Yes. Are they magic pills? No.
Right.
Are they necessary? No. Are they even healthy or good? No.
Right.
Almost 100% of the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There is a good argument out there against supplements, and you're going to find some of the industry health gurus that are going to say supplements have a very, how I want to say it, they don't want to make too big of a deal about it, and they don't want to undersell it. They say they have an effect, but for the most part, not what you actually think they do.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are not that great for you. So, especially some of the pre-workouts, I remember one time we had someone take 2 scoops of a pre-workout and had to go to the hospital because their heart was racing so fast. So, so that's just another aspect of, when I'm training people, I don't really push any supplements, in fact, and as of right now, I'm just staying very clean and talk to them about their nutrition, because most people aren't in there to, they just want to be fit and healthy and cut weight. And that's the majority of people that I see.
Yeah, it's probably, what would you say, like 80% weight loss, 85, 90 even, and then you get that 15.
I guess it's gender somewhat.
It is.
Yeah, most women are that 90+% easy.
Yeah.
And the guys, I want to say that's probably 60%. Most guys are 60% that want to just be healthy. You might have a percentage in there. I'm trying to, and again, I mean, and it might be 70%, but it's 60 to 70% of the guys that just don't want to be healthy. I do see sometimes where guys say, hey, I just want to be healthy and I want to, cut some weight. And then after they do that, their goals change.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they want to push some weight.
Yeah. Or, I want to just be healthy, but by the way, I also want to bench 300, and then it's like, well, you to be healthy, but it's like, well, I'd rather bench 300 than be perfectly healthy. So, because that is very common, and there are going to be a lot of people out there who say, okay, I've been in the gym, I'm doing it the healthy way, my diet's pretty healthy, I've lost the weight that I wanted to lose, or maybe I didn't need to lose any weight. I want to get stronger, I want to bulk up a little bit. What would be your main, or what would be your first go-to piece of advice if they're already eating a pretty clean diet the way that you wanted them to, and they say, okay, now it's time to reload, now it's time to go for getting stronger, gaining muscle? What's your go-to?
My go-to as far as macros?
Just in their advice.
Advice? Well, then that's where I'm going to really, if they're really wanting to get strong, then I'm going to take them their protein. Because at that time, if they've actually cut, then I'm going to be really stressing trying to get the protein up, especially on lift days. Like on lift days, let's try to get it up to 1.1, 1.2. Not so much that I want them doing that long term, but I'm thinking from a customer satisfaction, I want them to get there quicker rather than later, because there's motivation to that when they get there quicker. Mm-hmm. And so that, and then I'll tell them as well, let's up your carbs, let's also back off a little bit. I think of the 4 different, like if they're wanting, depending on what they're wanting to do, I'll think of the primary lift and the exercises they're going to need to do to get that lift stronger. So, and
that's a whole nother animal.
That's a whole nother animal.
Exercise specific.
Yeah, exercise. And I don't want to get too far in the weeds in that. I just, that's definitely, sometimes I want to be careful about say, hey, let's add all these carbs, but really they need to improve their form, and get their triceps stronger. If it's the bench, then triceps, a back, shoulders, chest, having a nice balance in all 4 of those categories, and getting strong in all those areas so they can get their bench ratio up and not have to gain as much weight. Mm-hmm. So I've actually had a few members that I've done that first instead of, is they'll say, hey, I want to bench heavier. I said, well, let's work on these 4 areas before I start upping your carb, but definitely get your protein up. Yeah. That's been kind of my general approach before I start getting them fatter, or getting their percentage up.
Well, and what I always tell people is they've got to remember, for every pound that they put on trying to bulk, trying to get stronger, once they do reach that goal of size or strength, that's just another pound that they have to get off after the fact. So really the best way to do it is to just do it nice and slow over time.
Yes.
I understand, like you said, people have timelines too that they want to meet, and sometimes you push that more than others. But, if you say, oh, I really want to bench 405, and you just sell out for benching 405, and you put on a bunch of weight, and you get there and you bench 405, and now it's like, okay, great, you did it, but now you have a bunch more work to do to get yourself back in shape, whereas you could just stay healthy and just enjoy the ride. I mean, think, how long has your ride been to 405?
Well, you're talking about me.
Well,
my ride for 405 has been 21 months.
Yeah, and you're not there
yet. So,
and you could have been, if you had been going all out for it and put on an extra 20 pounds, you'd probably do it just fine.
Yeah.
But what would the health ramifications of that be? And what work would it take to then get that off after the fact?
You're right, because I think that, just to relive it a little bit, I was like 9%, just above 9% body fat, and then weighed like 178, somewhere around there. And then slowly, I think we talked about, I tracked it. And when I came into the gym around 300-pound bench, and lost some of that, went down to 275 because I went down really light with all that meat challenge we did.
Oh, yeah.
I lost 25 pounds off my bench doing that. And then I said, okay, well, we're gonna move it up there. And so I just started. I averaged like 2.75 pounds per month for over 20 months. So I went from the 315 mark to the 370 mark. That's what it was. That was 55 pounds.
Yeah.
So,
and
that's
you still
slow.
look jacked.
I definitely got some fat on me.
Yeah.
Let's not make any mistakes about that.
But you don't look chubby. You're not overweight.
Right.
Things like that.
And I know that I'll have a little bit of work to do when I hit the 405 and I come down. But I've done it very slow.
Yeah.
And there's a couple advantages to that. One is I keep working on my form. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly working on my form, constantly working on my muscle groups and my accessory exercises, right? So I can try and not, so I can keep my bench ratio high and not just rely on weight. So, because I think there's a point frame-wise that if you're doing it naturally, you're going to hit a ceiling, and then once you hit that ceiling, it's going to take a lot of work to inch it up. Because I'm like 35 pounds away, and that 35 pounds is going to be real dedication to get up there, because I'm not going to take any anabolics and not doing tests. So it's going to take real dedication to my eating, to my routine, to push that extra 35 pounds. And I think it might even be smaller increments over the next several months to get up there. But
yeah. So if there is somebody out there who's wanting to get bigger, get stronger, that's kind of their main goal. They're not wanting to do it in an unhealthy way, but they're not also super worried about it putting on a couple pounds of body fat. That's kind of what you've been going through the last couple of years. What specifically are you doing with your diet in order to achieve those goals so that other people can understand what they should do to get a similar result?
I think it's everything we've kind of talked about. I eat very clean. I try really hard not to put anything toxic in me, because I'm more sensitive to those things than most people. The processed foods, I can tell when I've eaten processed foods, my body reacts differently. So if I eat something that's every once in a while, if we get in a pinch, right? I haven't had McDonald's in a very long time. I think it wasn't even McDonald's. I think it was Hardee's or something like that. Me and my wife were traveling, and the only thing in the next 2 hours was a Hardee's on the road. I'm like, man, I got to eat something, because I'm going to eat my arm here. And so had a Hardee's. Within like 30 minutes, I'm like, oh, man.
Well, that's a quick side note on processed food. We're telling people, to cut that out early on.
Right.
If you've been eating processed food for years, your body doesn't really notice it. You don't notice it when you eat it, how it makes you feel.
Right.
Try taking it out for a month and then reintroducing it, and you'll realize how bad that stuff is for you, because you'll feel it.
Yeah.
You'll be like, what the heck happened to me?
Yeah.
After you eat it.
Oh, absolutely. If I, anytime I put processed food in me and I haven't had in a while, it's a noticeable difference, mm-hmm. and I just don't feel good.
Yeah.
I feel run down. I feel bloated. I feel, sometimes I'll have aches,
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And so absolutely, that's 100%. But if someone who's trying to bulk, the first thing I tell them is try not to think about, let's say their goal is 405. I will say, don't think about the 405. Just think I'm coming in here and there's a plan in place to get bigger and stronger and continue to get bigger and stronger. And yes, you're adjusting your goals to reach the 405, but don't think about the 405. Every day you come in, remember that's your peace, that's your joy. You have a goal in mind, but you're there every day working hard, and the goal will happen. And that's the way it's been for me. I don't think about, hey, when my goal was like 350 or it was 335 or 315 or 365. I don't think about, I got to get 365. I'll be happy when I do that. I wouldn't have the gusto to reach it. I would be, I made sure I enjoyed and embraced the path, right?
Yeah.
Enjoy the walk, not the destination.
It kind of feels like this concept that I've heard people say before. My dad was one of them that said it, and it goes kind of like this. It says, if you watch your pennies and nickels, then the dollars will take care of themselves. And I think the kind of the meaning behind that is like the details are what's important. If you kind of watch your details and make sure that the little things you're doing are all correct, the big goal and the big thing is going to happen anyway.
Right.
And what you're kind of saying is focus on the little details. Make it to the gym every day. Eat the right thing every day. Get the sleep. Do the right workouts. And all of a sudden you'll look up and you'll be at your goal.
Right.
Right. If you know the path to get there, just focus on knocking those details out every day.
Yeah.
Because
Patience.
just focusing on the big picture will eat you alive.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just patience.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's been kind of nice is that I remember when I hit 315 was a big deal. I was like, hey, I hit 315. And
Now you throw it around like nothing.
Yeah. Now it's fun. But it was not that necessarily I hit it, and it was exciting, but at the same time, it naturally happened because I was putting in the workout based on getting stronger and bigger.
Yeah.
And so that naturally happened, and it ended up being a goal. So as I keep going forward, it's the lifestyle, but my lifestyle has a focus. Right.
Yeah.
And so my lifestyle might change. I hit 405, then my lifestyle focus will change. And I'll be like, okay, I've hit that. So it just gives me a little something to have direction for my eating and my workouts. So it makes them interesting and varied, basically.
How do your macros look trying to bulk and get stronger like this?
To be honest, I'm trying to get it up to about 3,800 to 4,000 calories. I've been sitting at
Per day.
Per day. Yeah, I've been sitting at 3,000 to 3,400, and that's what I've been sitting. But yeah, it's been usually pretty consistent. It's usually been 40 protein, 30 fats, and 30 carbs, and it'll adjust sometimes in there. But
Yeah.
the last 2 weeks have been kind of tough. I haven't been able to eat like I usually eat, and I lost 3 pounds. So,
And that's but I want everybody to listen to that. Repeat that again. How many calories per day are you eating?
about 3,400.
34, but you're trying to get that up a little bit. But
Yeah.
Many of you may not. I mean, obviously, if you're watching the video of this podcast, you can see Matt. He's not some big overweight guy.
Right.
And he's eating 3,400 calories. That's a lot of calories. But do
Yeah.
you know why he's not putting on body fat and he is putting on muscle when eating that many calories? It's because of what that calories is made up of.
Right.
A lot of meat, a lot of protein, clean whole foods.
Yeah.
He's not getting fat even though he's eating more calories than what the science is going to tell you that he needs, because it's the right foods, and the right foods are going to do the right things to your body.
Right.
I think that's important.
It is important because you can get fat on 2,500 calories.
Yeah, if it's the wrong stuff. Yeah,
right.
Because if you're eating a bunch of carbs and fats, not getting your protein, eating 2,500 calories, your body's going to break down its muscle because it doesn't have any protein to then replace it, and it's going to put on body fat. So you're going to get less muscle and more body fat.
Right.
However, really high protein diet, low carb, you can go really, really high on the calories, and all this protein is getting into your body, for the most part being used to rebuild your muscle bigger, add tissue to that. Protein builds protein. And then the lack of carbs is causing you to not store excess body fat. I mean,
Right.
that's basically what's going on. That's why we push the high protein diet too. You can eat 3,400 calories, and like you said, you're treading water weight-wise right now, eating 3,400 calories. You know how fast your metabolism is working in order to do that. And then you got off of it for just a couple weeks and you lost weight.
Yeah.
And you're trying to get it up just so you can stay put at the weight that you're at. I mean,
Right.
this dude can eat 3,500 calories a day and not gain any weight.
Yeah.
Think about how much freedom and flexibility you have. You don't have to worry count calories and, I can't eat another bite because I might gain fat. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. And you eat clean, and a lot of it's protein. You can eat a lot of calories, and, that it's kind of a fascinating, when you go through it yourself and you've been through it, and now I feel like, hey, I can make my body do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
And when you have that freedom to control it, I will say I've been stuck at 212 for quite a while.
Yeah.
Probably 4 months, close to 4 months. And so what have I not been eating? Rice. My only carbs was fruit. That was it. And so I removed some of those fructose and put in some dextrose, which is a rice grain glucose. And now I'm be cooking a lot more rice. And I'm hoping that makes the last 8 to 10 pound difference to get me there.
That will help.
Yeah.
I would say, you're still looking at a while to get there.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight, but I would definitely say you'll get there.
Yeah. Patience, perseverance. Yeah.
It's all about the long term. Because you still want to be, and I think most guys, most people with this goal, they still want to look good.
Yeah.
Looking good and feeling good is still a big piece of this goal.
Right.
And whenever you sacrifice that to lift a certain amount of weight, a lot of times I think people end up regretting it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'd be curious about how, because you approach things a little bit differently than me. Yeah, I think you have a little bit more of a knowledge base when it comes to nutrition. So when you approach someone with their goals, how do you approach them to get them where they want to be?
So the main thing I focus on is kind of those 3 things I talked about at the beginning. Are they a beginner? Are they experienced but want to focus on weight loss? Or are they experienced and want to focus on getting bigger?
Right.
With myself, I haven't been a beginner for a very long time. So personally, I don't really focus on that for myself. I go back and forth between hey, I want to kind of cut down, lose a little body fat, or I want to bulk up, get bigger. I go back and forth between those two for myself. Interesting thing that's happening on Carnivore Month, and it's early. It's only 2 weeks in, so I'm trying to figure it out, and I've got some hypothesis about what is taking place. But I went from a more over the holidays and throughout the last part of the year, I had some carbs in my diet.
Right.
Not high carb necessarily, but probably more around 20 to 30%, kind of like what you're doing now. And I was maintaining weight, maybe gaining a little bit of weight. I was trying to do a little bulk before the end of the year, knowing that Carnivore Month was coming. And I thought, I'm going to hit Carnivore Month and I'm not going to be able to keep any weight on because I'm going to have no carbs. But what I have found is my weight in 2 days, the first 2 days of Carnivore Month, I was down 6 pounds.
Wow.
It was quick.
Wow.
I went from 186 to 180. Then what I've found since then, I've been slowly creeping back up, and I'm up to 183. And so I know that I'm not putting on body fat. I can look in the mirror, I can see I'm not putting on body fat. That means I'm putting on muscle mass. And so I didn't expect this to be a time that I could put on much muscle mass, but I think I am. And my performance in the gym has been still pretty level. I haven't really seen like crazy strength gains. It's been about the same as it was before the end of the year. But I'm really interested to see what happens by the end of the year, because I've always taken the approach of, you want to gain weight, you want to get stronger, you have to introduce those carbs. I'm on no carb right now. If I can get stronger on no carb, that might change my thought a little bit. Because, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get my 1 gram per pound of body weight protein at least, maybe 1.2. I'm going to get a certain level of fats, 30, 40% fats, about 100 grams or so for me. And then my carbs I'm going to play with based on my goal. If I want to cut, carbs go to 0 basically. If I want to bulk, carbs are going to go up to 20, 30% of my macros. And I've always just done it that way, and it's always worked. But this is kind of a different viewpoint. So I'll have to report back in a few weeks, kind of once I formulate my final analysis of what has taken place over this month. But it's been really good so far.
Yeah, I find that going through, it's kind of like when you hire someone for a job. You hope they kind of came up through the ranks so they know what's involved with the people they're going to, especially if they're managing people, that they've done the work, they've been there, they know what to expect. It's kind of the same thing with diet. You go through the diets, you bulk, you cut, you try the carnivore, you do, I'm trying to think of the intermittent fasting, trying those different things, controlling the body, having it do what you want to do. And then when you go through that, you can know the nuances of what to look for and how to help people, through these diets.
That makes you a 10 times better coach.
Right.
If you've gone through it before yourself, you're going to be able to coach it way better. I don't have a lot of trust for coaches that haven't done the thing themselves that they're trying to coach.
Correct.
You kind of learn by doing, and you pick up so much more information about how to do what you're trying to coach people to do if you've done it before. That's one of the reasons with carnivore diet. I've never stuck to it long term enough. I know the short term kind of effects and what happens if you do it for a few days, because I've done it for a few days before. But I thought, if I want to coach somebody to do this for a month, 2 months, 3 months, I want to know more about what takes place in my own body when I do it, and I can help trainees through it better.
Right.
So that was another main goal of mine in doing this. From an exercise perspective, I've kind of tried it all in order to know, and I think that's helped me tremendously in being able to coach the exercises and just workout programs and what's best for everybody. But I haven't tried everything when it comes to diet. The only thing I'm not going to try, vegetarian.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
So I won't be trying that. So if you're looking for experience from me.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, we got about 5 minutes today, guys. So, but I do want to cover that real quickly. There's some, for the longest time, they were saying vegetables are an absolute, that we have to have them. And I don't know where you're coming from on this, but some of the studies I've come across is that we absolutely don't have to have vegetables. They just don't have to be. And if you enjoy them, great, but they're not necessary for long-term living. A lot of if you think about what the cows eat, and I'm going to call them inhibitors, a lot of foods, you can't get all the nutrients out of them because they have inhibitors in them that the body has trouble breaking down. And, meat has all the same vitamins, minerals, nutrients in it, and more that are bioavailable for you to absorb. And so that's, some of the science that I've come across. I'm a big fan of Dr. Sean Baker, and he puts out a lot of studies, and I shouldn't say he follows a lot of studies and posts them. And I've been reading some of the stuff about that. And I've found that vegetables are more of if you enjoy them, great, but they're not an absolute.
I think part of it is a volume thing too. Depending on the nutrient, how many vegetables, how much greens, like volume do you have to eat in order to get a certain amount of nutrients versus it's kind of like meat is just so much more densely nutrient packed than like vegetables are. Like you could eat this massive bowl of salad and probably get the same amount of vitamins and minerals as like 4 ounces of steak.
Right.
You know,
right.
so you can do it that way. And I think that's what a lot of vegetarians, even vegans, will find is they will go in and they will have to do all this work and time and effort into hone in their diet to get all the right nutrients.
Right.
I got to have this much of this every day and this much of this because I don't want to be nutritionally deficient in anything. And it's this big, long process. And then you could take somebody who's like the polar opposite of that, doing like carnivore, and they're like, I just eat meat.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well,
It's done.
both get the nutrients that they need. Nobody's, actually, I would say the carnivore is most of the time going to be in better shape nutrient-wise. I mean, I'm not saying, I will put it this way. Getting the junk out of your diet is number one. Because I think there have been studies done that show, a lot of the vegetarian and vegan studies compare a vegetarian diet to a standard American diet. Mm-hmm. And if you're comparing eating fruits and vegetables only with eating a bunch of processed junk food and McDonald's all the time, you're going to be healthier.
Yes.
Does that mean that you're the healthiest you can be? No.
Right.
And so I think then there's another level to that where let's compare a vegetarian diet to a clean, whole foods, meat-based, carnivore-based diet, and then see the results. And that's what we're starting to see, because the vegan industry, the anti-meat industry has put out a lot of these studies studying their diet versus a processed food diet,
yeah.
and saying, oh, well, it's healthier.
Yeah, look at this.
Vegetarian
Of course.
is good.
Yeah.
Vegan is good. But we haven't had a lot of that other yet, where we've compared vegetarian diet to healthy, non-processed, whole foods, meat-based diet. And that's what we're starting to see, because carnivore diet's taking off. You talked about Dr. Deshaun Baker. I was looking at something he posted the other day, and it was a graph of the internet search popularity for carnivore. And it was over like a number of decades, and it basically was like zero for a long time. And all of a sudden, 2019, 2020, it started to get popular, and basically since then it's just been exponentially skyrocketing, the popularity. So it's finally coming around. We're finally going to hopefully get some studies out and things, so we have more of a scientific backing for it. My backing for it, going back to when I was in college, I mean, I followed a carnivore-based diet for many, many years, and my backing for it back then was just it was easy. I liked it, and it worked for me. Mm-hmm. It was anecdotal. Mm-hmm. It was, okay, I've used this in my life, and it works. I couldn't really tell you exactly why, because back then I didn't have very much nutritional training.
Right.
As I've become more educated in the areas of nutrition, it's only reaffirmed what was already working for me and what I was already doing. It's only reaffirmed that is the right way to go about it, or the best way to go about it, and it's also a good way to coach other people to do the same thing.
Gosh, I feel like we need to do a second episode of this, because now I'm thinking about how we've been dumbed down the last many decades about what's good for us.
Yeah.
And now we have a very unhealthy population. But, another time. And also there was a study, and I wish we had a producer. Someday we might.
If we get big enough.
Yeah.
We get Rogan style.
But I looked this up. I think it was called the Bellevue study.
Sounds very familiar.
So
yeah.
like a couple guys went into a hospital. This is in like the 20s or 30s, and they ate only meat for a year. And at first they started and they ate very lean meat, and then they got sick. And they said, oh, we got to have meat that has a good amount of fat on it. And when they started eating meat that had fat on it, because they ate a lot of chicken, very lean meat, and then they introduced a lot of fatty meats, and they got very, very healthy. In fact, the results were astounding at the time, that you can just eat meat and be very, very healthy. And that study has been kind of buried. It's just in the last few years that's been dug back up. But it was a very revealing study. They actually have a documentary on it. It's worth a watch. And I think it's called the Bellevue study, but I'll have to go back and check. I can give an update on the next podcast. But
I think you're right. I've heard that story, but like I said, I can't confirm either.
Yeah.
But that's very close. Another thing I kind of wanted to touch on was when it comes to marketing. Just real quick, we talked about taking out the processed foods and how, I guess this is probably for another episode, but the things that are pushed hard in marketing are there to profit off of you. They're not there to make you healthier.
Yeah.
The things that aren't marketed, you know, the things you have to go to the back of the grocery store for, that's where all the back of the grocery store is all the meat, it's the milk, it's the eggs, because they want you to walk through all the other junk and processed stuff to get there. And they've got the shiny packages. And I mean, think about the aisles. You go down, it's colorful, it's shiny packages, it's popping out at you, it's real good. You go to the back, the eggs are just in this like carton, like you can't even, you know, there's like a white carton or a gray carton or something. You know, milk's just in a jug, meat's just in a package. You know, you just see the meat. The product markets itself on the meat and the eggs and stuff like that.
Right.
Whereas this junk, they have to do extra marketing just to people to buy it because they know it. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't know they needed it unless they were told that they needed it.
And I'm going to call it healthy terms that they put on these packages to make you think they're very healthy. And basically all these terms have been redefined on what's healthy. And, you know, there's a lot of things that, and I want to be careful about what I say here, but there's a lot of things that are in those packages that have been deemed safe and they're not safe. So, you know, I would just say a good rule. If anytime the ingredients list looks like a thesis, it's time to rethink the foods you're putting in your body. So, you know, another thing very important, avoid the chip aisle. One day I went through the chip aisle, and someone probably thought I was nuts. I turned over every single snack chip and read the ingredients, chip bag. You know, be it, you know, Doritos or, you know, Cheetos or, you know, tortillas or tortilla chips or whatever. I just kept turning them all over. I just wanted to see if any of them were made in a non-seed oil. 100%. So I don't buy any chips from the grocery store because those seed oils are bad for you. It's because they all have low smoking points. That's just another point. I tell people, stop eating the chips you get from the grocery store.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got to get going, my friend.
All right. Well, let's do a quick summary here of kind of what we talked about, which is, you know, we touch on kind of the three areas. If you're a beginner, what to do. If you're wanting to lose weight, what you need to do. And if you're looking to bulk up, get stronger, what you need to do. Beginner, Matt laid it out really well. Cut out the processed foods, increase the protein, drop the carbs.
Yeah.
That's as simple as it needs to get. So, you know, if you're a beginner, you're not likely to be as familiar. Processed foods, packages, boxes, high number ingredients, cut those out. Then we go to kind of the second thing. That was the one where you're looking for more weight loss. That one is going to be sticking with the high protein, sticking with really low carbs, and then keeping the fats at kind of a medium level. So mainly just focus on super clean diet, clean whole foods, meat, fruits, vegetables, you know, eggs, and keeping the carbs really, really low. So low fruit, you know, pretty low on vegetables. And then if you're kind of in that third area that's wanting to bulk up, wanting to get bigger, that's when we start pushing those carbs up. Protein stays high. Foods still stay clean because you don't want to bulk the wrong way. You don't want to get bigger and get unhealthy at the same time. But then the carbs can go up more, like you talked about rice, you know, oats, fruit, you know, the more whole natural foods that do have carbs in them, potatoes, you know, things like that. You push those up to reach your goals. So that's kind of the three areas that we focus on today in a quick summary of them.
That was a good summary.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. I think that was a good summary for the day. And I think for, you know, you were talking about the beginner people, you know, we didn't get into a lot of like real concrete percentages because I think we have to kind of keep that customized to the person.
That's true.
You know, but, you know, we can get into rule of thumb and stuff like that. But, you know, I even sometimes just say that to them because I know how much hard work it is. It's like a mental drain on them if I give them like you know, you got to do this and this and this and this. And it's like their eyes are rolling back at the top of their head like, oh my gosh, you know. And I just say, let's start with getting your protein up. And I get a little more specific on that, but get the carbs down, cut them down, stop the alcohol. It's a problem, you know, stop your alcohol. That's something you do every weekend. And if you're getting your protein up, probably most likely your fats are going to be pretty relatively decent. So, protein's up, carbs down, and sometimes that's all I need to say to start. And then I start talking about what they're actually eating, and then start customizing it from there.
Yep, it's a process.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we thank you so much for listening. 4th episode, so we've hit 4 in a row now. We're going to keep rolling. Every week we want to cover topics that you guys are really interested in. So as always, you can email, you can message us on social media, Instagram, YouTube, if you have any questions or topics you want covered. Matt, drop your email for us.
cpt.kansascity@gmail.com. Again, that's C, P as in Paul, T as in Tom, .kansascity@gmail.com. And Loading the Bar podcast, we'll have that. We have a YouTube channel and a Instagram channel.
Yep. So that's the great places to find us. We thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll be back with you guys next week. See ya.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
Hey, look at you. You've completed another milestone by finishing this episode of Loading the Bar. Your future self thanks you profusely. Loading the Bar is podcasted from Kansas City, Missouri. Email us at cpt.kansascity@gmail.com. Forge ahead and share your progress, and we'll see you back here for another episode of Loading the Bar.